guys, what's up? It's Raven. Fun fact, I have never seen the movie The Notebook. And that's really just one of many movies like that are like classic movies that everyone always talks about that I have never seen. And honestly, I don't really care to watch it because I'm just not really a movie person. I'm not a movie person and I'm not a TV show person either. Like 9 times out of 10, somebody asks me like, oh, have you seen this? Are you watching this? And I'm like, no. I just don't watch movies or TV shows like at all. But on another note, today we are going to be talking about money. We are going to be talking about my money specifically. We're going to be talking about my personal experience with money and making money. And specifically, I'm going to be talking about what I have learned since making my first million. Yes, I just said that out loud. I can't believe it. I've never said that out loud. I've never said that publicly. But yes, I am now lucky enough to be able to say that I have experienced what it feels like to make $1 million. Last year, 2020, was my first quote unquote $1 million year. And I've been working up to that over the past like 5 or 6 years for sure. Basically, when I found out that I was pregnant with my daughter, it really put a fire under my ass more than ever before. I've always been a goal-oriented person. I've always been what you might call a hustler, you know? I've always had like big goals, financial goals, always tried to like stay on top of that and push myself. But when I found out that I was pregnant with my daughter, it like got multiplied times 100. And I started really setting a lot of financial goals and really holding myself to it. And so I put a lot of time and work and energy into doing anything that I can to try to double, triple, quadruple my income every year. And I did it. You know, I started at a certain point, like I said, about 5 or 6 years ago, where I was like doing good and living comfortably. But I was like, no, I'm going to push harder, aim for more, aim for more, aim for more every single month, every single year. And so that finally got me to the point last year, like I said, where I pretty much hit that goal of making $1 million. And that is really crazy for me to be saying. It's like one of those things, like when you say it out loud, it's like, wait, what? Like, and also it's weird to talk about. It's awkward to talk about. I feel uncomfortable because, you know, it's such a taboo subject. You know, a lot of people would say that it's very tacky for me to even say that and say like an exact number. But at the same time, it's like, I feel like I should be able to be proud of myself. I feel like I should be able to talk about it and like celebrate it, and especially celebrate it with you guys, especially those of you who are here right now listening to my podcast. I know y'all are the squad for real. You know what I mean? Y'all are like friends. Y'all are like family to me. Y'all have watched me grow up literally. So like, I want to be able to talk about this stuff with you guys and celebrate this stuff with you guys. Y'all are a part of it. Y'all are like the reason for it. But at the same time, like I feel bad talking about it. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, that's tacky. That's inappropriate, whatever. But I just decided for this episode, I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to talk about it. You know what I mean? It's my truth. It's my story. It's my life. And I want to share it. And I want to be able to, you know, be transparent about it. So I'm sorry for anyone who kind of is offended by it or whatever. I'm not trying to come off as, you know, insensitive or bragging or anything like that. You know, and I don't want to go into this whole 5-minute long disclaimer. It's very tempting for me to go into a big long disclaimer and try to convince you guys, like, you know, justify what I'm saying and convince you guys like, I'm not trying to brag. I'm not trying to do this. But at the end of the day, it's like, do I really want to have to start every single podcast episode with a disclaimer? Because that's what it's going to turn into. And then it doesn't really do anything, because if there are people out there who are going to take it the wrong way and who are going to be offended or feel some type of way about what I'm saying, they're still going to feel some type of way even with the disclaimer. So it doesn't really like do anything. It kind of just is what it is. But yes, last year was my first $1 million year, and I am on track this year. I am thankful, grateful to say that I am also on track this year to do the same, if not more. And so long story short, I have definitely leveled up into a new tax bracket. And it's been really eye-opening and interesting for me because this is new. Like, I'm learning things. I'm realizing things. Now, I didn't grow up in poverty. This is not a story of going from nothing to something. This is not a story from like, it's not a story like making it out of the hood and becoming a millionaire. Like, I don't have that type of story. I grew up in a very much so upper middle class type family type lifestyle. I had both parents. They both had good jobs my whole childhood. You know, we lived in the suburbs in a 2-story brick house. You know what I mean? Like, we had a very like, the best way I can describe it is like very Disney Channel. Like very, what would be a good family on the Disney Channel? Like maybe like That's So Raven or something like that. Well, I don't know. I feel like on That's So Raven, they kind of were a little bit rich because they had like a really cool house and the dad was like a famous chef. I don't know. Just very middle class, very much so, not struggling, not wanting for anything, but at the same time, not rich, not wealthy, not like we didn't have a pool in our backyard. My parents did not drive like luxury cars. We wasn't wearing designer clothes. We wasn't, you know what I mean? Like we weren't taking vacations to Europe. Like we weren't rich, but we were definitely well off, especially in the grand scheme of things. When you think about like how unfortunately the majority of America lives, we were definitely well off. And so like, I don't want to take away from that or negate that or make it seem like I started from nothing. And then I didn't start from nothing. So I just want to make that clear. I had a very comfortable childhood, but at the same time, like I grew up knowing people who were rich, who did have more money than us, who did have pools in their backyard and who did have lake houses with jet skis and boats and mansions and, you know, who were traveling to Europe. And like, I grew up knowing people like that. So while I knew that I was privileged and I was well off, I also knew that we weren't rich. And I felt like I knew what it meant to be rich, if that makes sense. Like I was comfortable and I knew I was in a good place, but I knew that I saw where I could be, basically. I was seeing these examples of where I could be. Like, I could be like this is cool and everything, but I could be like these other people. And I think that kind of got ingrained in my mind from a young age. And that's kind of what inspired my, you know, hustler mentality from a young age. That's such a cringy way. I don't know how else to like say that. I don't like the phrase hustler mentality because that's just like so cringy, but I think that's kind of what put those thoughts in my head initially and made me want to like set these goals for myself because I saw examples of it and I'm like, well, hey, if that's possible, then I want to do that. But yeah, so I grew up not wanting for anything, not needing anything, not struggling. But at the same time, I wasn't spoiled. And my parents made it a point to, you know, instill in me from a young age that like I needed to make my own money. You know what I mean? Like they weren't just giving me money. If I wanted, you know, new clothes or I wanted a certain thing, like they were like, you need to make your own money to pay for that. Like we're not just going to give you stuff. We're not just going to give you money. So I had to learn from a young age. And I had an entrepreneurial spirit from a young age anyway. It was just kind of my personality anyway, that I wanted to do my own thing and make my own money. So, you know, I had small businesses from the time that I was like 12. And I always put a lot of emphasis and a lot of effort into that. So I, you know, started making and saving money from a young age. And also I was lucky enough to become successful with social media. And so that started bringing in income as well. So even though my parents were like, hey, we're not finna just pay for everything, like you have to make your own money, I was lucky enough to be able to make my own money from a young age. And then even when like in college, when my parents were like, no, we're not supporting you anymore, you need to support yourself, I was like, okay, bet, that's fine, because now I'm making money through social media. So I never really had to struggle, like truly struggle in that sense. Did I have the broke college student experience for a minute there? Yes, definitely. I definitely had the experience of like, I got to pay for my own shit and I'm in college and I'm really not making a lot of money, and I only have $20 in my bank account. So there's things that I can't do, can't afford. You know what I mean? I'm eating Pop-Tarts for dinner. Like, I definitely had like your kind of like stereotypical broke college student experience for a minute there, but it didn't last long, and it was never extreme. You know what I mean? Because of the way that like things worked out for me, I guess. So, you know, I just want to make it clear, like, I've never experienced poverty. I've never truly had to like struggle financially to the point where it got really bad. But even just going from middle class to where I am now is still a huge change. It's still, like I said, eye-opening, and I've learned a lot, and I've realized a lot of things. Like, I didn't have to start from nothing in order for it to like be a huge change, if that makes sense. And the main thing that I have learned, the overall overarching theme and lesson that I've learned from starting at that and now having this, is that money is not everything. And I know that's super cliche and super like, everybody always says that. We know that money's not everything. Money cannot buy happiness. You know, just having more money is not going to fix all your problems and fix your whole life and make you happy and make your life perfect. Like, we've heard it all before. Again, it's a cliche. I feel like, you know, y'all are probably like, yeah, Raven, we know, we don't need to be reminded of that. But like, I needed to be reminded of that. And I feel like maybe there are people out there listening to this that actually do need to be reminded of that. Money is a major factor, major key in our lives. Don't get me wrong, but it's not everything. It's not everything. I feel like what I've learned is that money kind of only gets you halfway with anything. Like, any problem that I may face, any issue that I may have, money helps, but it only gets me halfway a lot of the times. Just to give a few examples, something like my mental health. I know there's so many people out there who unfortunately are struggling with their mental health, and they don't even have the funds or the resources to be able to afford a therapist or afford maybe some of the medications that they might need or tools that they might need to actually help them with their mental health. It costs money. And if you don't have money, then it's like, you know, unfortunately, you know, what are you going to do? And so for me, I realized that like, I'm really thankful to be able to have the financial freedom to pay for a therapist and things like that. But that's not just like a magical fix. I could spend $100 million on the best therapist in the world. That therapist is not going to be able to cure my depression. That therapist is not going to be able to cure my anxiety. That therapist is not going to make me happy by like waving a magic wand or something. A therapist is just somebody who's there, who is going to try to give you some tools and resources and advice, but then you have to take that and you have to put it in action. You have to put in the work. You have to stay consistent with what they're telling you, and you have to make a change. And there's no dollar amount that you can spend to just like poof, make that happen. You know what I mean? And that's something that I've had to learn through experience. You know what I mean? There's so many issues like that that you can't just throw money at it. That only gets you halfway there. Is it helpful? Yes. Am I grateful for the privilege to at least be able to get to that halfway point? Yes. But it's just the halfway point. Same thing goes for like physical health, you know, being able to afford healthcare, even just using like my skin, for example. I've always struggled with acne. So now I can afford the best of the best dermatologists and stuff like that. But okay, so I'm gonna spend that money, go to the dermatologist, and the dermatologist is gonna tell me, well, Raven, you're allergic to this, this, and this, so you need to eat really clean if you want to keep your skin clear. And also your skin is super acne prone and sensitive, so you're gonna have to take this medication and use this topical cream morning and night for the rest of your life, pretty much, if you want to have clear skin. Okay, bet. I'm grateful that I was able to afford this consultation so you could tell me this information. But again, that just comes down to me loving myself enough to actually be motivated enough to be consistent with what they told me to do to keep my skin clear. And as y'all could probably see right now, if you're watching the video version, which by the way, the podcast is on YouTube, so check it out. If you're not watching on YouTube right now, I will link it in all the appropriate places so you can check it out on YouTube. But if you're watching the video version right now, you could probably see I have no makeup on. I'm breaking out. I'm continually struggling with my acne because I could spend so much money on treatments and dermatologists, and like it comes down to like how I'm taking care of myself on a day-to-day basis. If I'm not taking care of myself, if I'm not putting in the work, if I don't love myself enough, like I said, to actually put in that work, to be consistent with it, I'm always going to have acne. It doesn't matter how much money I spend on it. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, I end up just wasting money because I keep going back for the treatments, but then I keep basically fucking it up because of how I'm living my daily life, because of what I'm eating and stuff like that. And that goes for like physical health in general. You know, I can use the example of like hiring a personal trainer. Oh, you think like I'm going to be in such a better place when I finally make it to a point where I can afford a personal trainer. You know what I mean? I can afford a nutritionist. I can afford a private chef who's going to cook all my like healthy meals for me. Like, then I'll be happy. Then my life is going to change, because then I'll be able to afford the help from those people to get me to the place that I want to be. And then I'll be happy. You know what I mean? Like, that's how you think of it. But then you get there and you hire the personal trainer and you hire the private chef and whatever else. And again, those are just tools. You have to follow through. You have to do what the if you're not showing up for the workout, if you're not putting your all into the workout, if you having the chef make you the food, but you don't really want to eat the food, and so you just throw away the food and order McDonald's instead, like, that all comes down to your mindset. It comes down to your mental health and your mindset and your personal habits and your personal flaws, your addictions, your struggles. It does not matter how much money you have. If you have addictions and struggles and flaws and mental health issues, it's always going to get in the way. It's always still going to get in the way of reaching your goals and being happy. And that's something that I had to like basically admit to myself. Like, Raven, you're working so hard to earn this income to be able to pay for these things that you think are going to like change your life and make you happy and make you better. Only you can make you better. You know what I mean? It comes down to you. And if you're not going to do it, then at the end of the day, it's just a waste of time and money. So that's one big thing that I realized. And also just the fact that it's easier said than done, because I know people looking from the outside who have not experienced this would probably look at me and say, Raven, what the fuck is wrong with you? How could you be so blessed and, you know, have this disposable income, have this financial freedom, be able to hire a dermatologist, and then you're just not going to listen to what they tell you to do? You're just not going to follow through? Like, what is wrong with you? Like, you're just a stupid person. You know what I mean? Like, that's so... I could see how people would just think that that's so ridiculous. Like, I'm being kind of like being ungrateful, and just like, I think it's easy for people to say like, well, if I were you, I would never like ignore their advice. I would definitely follow through. If I had those resources, if I had those opportunities, I would definitely follow through. It would be no question. But you don't realize how hard it is until you're in it. Especially if, like I said, it's about mindset, it's about addiction, it's about mental health. If I'm depressed, I'm sorry, but like, do you know how hard it is to stick to something as simple as a skincare routine if you're really struggling with depression? And it's easy to judge from the outside looking in and be like, well, I would never do that. I would never waste that opportunity. But you might. You might. You know what I mean? It's easier said than done, and you don't know until you're in it. And again, that's something that I had to realize and admit to myself, like, you're struggling with this, Raven. You need to work on this. This is a problem. You know what I mean? You need to change your mindset, work on your mental health, change your habits, and these other things that like money has nothing to do with it. Also, another thing that I realized is while having more financial freedom does open up more doors. It gives you more options, more resources, more choices. You know, you just have more at your fingertips. That also means you have access to unhealthy things as well. Just as much as you have access to like things that are supposed to help you and be good for you, you also have just as much access to unhealthy things. And again, this goes back to what I just said about your mindset and your mental health and your personal flaws, because it's like, okay, so what are you going to choose? Yes, I have the financial freedom. I have the space in my budget to be able to go to Whole Foods and get nothing but the most organic, like top of the line, super healthy food. And, you know, I'm lucky enough to be able to afford it because that stuff is super expensive. But also that means that I also can afford to DoorDash, Chick-fil-A, and Popeyes every single day if I want to, and not have to worry about the delivery fee because I have the disposable income to be able to do that. So it's like, what are you going to choose? It opens up doors, but it opens up both doors. And it boils down to you as a person and what you're going to do with that. And luckily for me, I feel like I've done okay in that area. Like I definitely need to improve. I feel like I've done okay. One area that I struggle with is food, actually, and eating unhealthy, ordering delivery all the time, just because I feel like, well, since I'm not too worried about the delivery fee, I'm just going to do it. I'm not too worried about, you know, the cost of eating out all the time. Then I'm just going to do it because it's convenient and it's good and it's tasty or whatever. But, you know, I'm allergic to a lot of stuff. I'm intolerant to a lot of stuff. And the main thing that happens when I eat unhealthy is that I break out. And I'm super insecure and super like sensitive about my acne still to this day. Like, I fucking hate the fact that I still have acne and I still struggle with that. And I know that a huge part of it is that I need to eat clean. I must eat clean if I want to have clear skin. But still, every single day, I'm like ordering Popeyes on Chick-fil-A, and I know it's going to make me break out, but it's like the temptation. And then especially, like I said, if you're struggling with depression and stuff like that, it's going to make you do stuff like that. And luckily for me, you know, it's just food. For other people, it's like drugs, alcohol, all these other types of addictions that, you know, having money opened up this door for them to be able to do it. And now they're going down this slippery slope of addiction and unhealthy habits. And again, it's one of those things that when I wasn't in this position, I looked at it like, oh, I would never do that. That would never be me. I don't know why people do that. They just have no self-control, you know, very judgmental, very like, well, I don't know what's wrong with you because I would never do that. But now I'm here and now I see why it happens and why it happens so often, because it's yeah. And again, I think that's kind of a big thing is people who are on the outside looking in, you don't know until you know. You don't realize it until you realize it. And so I guess I just realized that working hard to reach my financial goals and to reach financial freedom wasn't enough. I have to work equally as hard on myself. You know what I mean? Because one without the other is pointless. Literally, one without the other is pointless. Like, do you want to be a depressed, extremely unhealthy, just miserable millionaire? But also, do you want to be like someone who does have pretty good mental health, but you can't provide for yourself at all and you're like struggling and worried about your next paycheck? Like, no, nobody wants to be either one. Nobody wants to live in poverty for sure, but nobody wants to be unhappy either. And so it's just like one without the other is pointless. Like, it's a balance between both. Unfortunately, you know, it would be nice if we lived in a world where money was not a thing. It would be great if we lived in a world where everything was just free and everyone just had what they needed and we didn't have to worry about money. Like, that would be amazing. But we don't live in that world. We live in a capitalist society that runs on the almighty dollar. And so you do need it. Unfortunately, you do need it. And having those financial goals and aiming for financial freedom is, you know, necessary. But those self-growth goals, those internal goals, working on yourself is equally as important. And I realized for myself that I worked so hard to become successful in the business sense of the word and the financial sense of the word. But did I put that much work into myself? Did I put that much work into my mental health? Did I put that much work into my physical health? No, not at all. And so I got to this point where I felt really accomplished in one area, but really unaccomplished in a lot of other super important areas. And then I'm just still unhappy. You know what I mean? Like, I'm happy that I reached this goal, but I'm generally just still unhappy because of that lack of balance. And another huge thing that I learned is that it takes a lot of work to be happy. It takes a lot of work to be happy, and not just work in the sense of going to work, being on your grind, earning the paycheck to be able to take care of yourself. Yes, that's part of it. But a lot of work in the sense that, like, you have to work on yourself. You have to do these difficult things, make these difficult realizations about yourself, realize the areas that are lacking within yourself, the changes that you need to make, the problems that you've caused for yourself that only you can remedy. It takes that kind of work. And I think for me, before, I would look at my life and I would kind of see like this list of problems, this list of issues. Like, why am I not happy? Well, it's because of this, 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 and this. And I kind of used my financial goals as an easy answer to all of those problems. It was easier for me to say, okay, I have all these things that I'm unhappy with. I'm not happy with my life. So what am I going to do? I'm just going to make more money. I'm going to make a lot of money, and then that's going to fix everything, and I'm going to be happier, and I'm going to be in a whole different, lifestyle, whole different place in life. Like, that was my way of just like slapping an answer on all of the problems. And for me, being successful in the business sense, in the financial sense, is something that feels very doable. It feels tangible. It feels possible. I know it's something that I can do. You know what I mean? So it makes me feel better. It's like a coping mechanism. It's like, I want to use that as the answer to everything because it makes it feel possible. It makes it feel possible to be happy. Does that make sense? Whereas if I really stop and think about it, and if I'm really being honest with myself, and what I've learned now is that actually it takes a lot of work to be happy, a lot of work in a lot of different difficult areas that are more mental and a lot more like abstract and not tangible. And you can't put a number on it. You know what I mean? You can't divide it up nicely on a calendar. You know what I mean? Me being a Virgo and me being like, an entrepreneur and all that type of stuff, it's easy for me to say, well, I'm just gonna, earn this much money every month. It's easy for me to like break it down like that and have those types of goals and feel like I can reach those type of goals and actually reach those goals. It's not as easy for me to do the other side of it. Like I said, like the more mental side of it, the more personal side of it. It's like hard for me to wrap my head around. It's hard for me to feel like I can make a true plan and put it in writing. And so it was really just me taking the easy way out and saying like, well, I'll just make more money and that'll just fix everything, right? No, that was never true. And so now I'm coming to the realization like, no, you're going to have to shift your focus a little bit. You're going to have that balance between both. And it's a hard pill to swallow. You know what I mean? To realize, to be here now, having reached the financial goals, surpassed my financial goals, feel like, yay, I did it. I did what I said I was going to do. So now my life should be better now. Oh, wait, but it's not. That's a hard pill to swallow, to realize like you've been working hard. Yeah, you've been working towards this, but you weren't necessarily working on the right things. That wasn't it. Again, that was only half of the equation. You know what I mean? It was only half of the equation. So now I'm being slapped in the face with the reality of the fact that like I still have this whole other half of work to do if I really want to be happy. But I'm grateful. I don't want to make it seem like having money is a bad thing. Definitely not. Financial freedom is amazing. Being able to set up generational wealth is amazing. Being able to take care of my family and not struggle. And I mean, it's amazing. It's a great thing. I'm very pro having financial goals. You know what I mean? I'm very like, yes, get in your bag, sis. Yes, get your coin, sis. Like I'm that type of person because I know this is the world we live in. You know what I mean? Cash rules everything around me, whether you like it or not. And so I'm very like, yeah, focus on that. Have those goals. Do that. Make it happen. I'm going to encourage everyone to get in their bag. And I'm going to stay in my bag too. But it can't just be that. It has to just be a balance. That's just the only thing. But yes, having financial freedom is a great thing. Like, don't get me wrong. And I'm grateful and I'm proud of myself too. You know what I mean? I am proud of myself, but I don't know. So let me just talk about some of the positive things that I have learned or realized since, coming into a new tax bracket. First thing is financial freedom in general is amazing. Like I just said, just the simple fact of having more freedom automatically, definitely changed my life in a positive way. One big thing is that I don't think about bills the same way that I used to. I used to obsess over my budget, my income, my expenses. Literally every single day, I would be looking at my bank statements, busting out the calculator, making spreadsheets, adding, subtracting, trying to make sure, okay, so these are my bills and this is what I want to do. Like every single time that I would want to buy something, I would be busting out the calculator, checking everything, double checking. Like I used to obsess. And when I tell you obsess over my income and my finances and my budget. And now it's like all my bills are on auto pay. I'm not worried about having enough in my account to cover it. I know that I have enough. I know it's on auto pay. I know it's going to be paid. And I just don't really think about it. That right there is huge. That's like a huge 180 from like how it used to be for me. And then just like when it comes to buying everyday items, just living my everyday life and spending money, like I just swipe my card. Like I don't really check into it and obsess over it like I used to. Like I used to before, 5 years ago, if I was going to Target, I would check my bank account before I walked into the store. You know what I mean? I would check and calculate and make sure and like set a certain number in my head. Like, okay, well, I can only spend this much because if I spend this much, then I'm going to I would do that every single time before I bought anything. Now I don't do that. And, like I said, that goes for like anything, eating out, buying groceries, ordering food, whatever, getting stuff for Zaya. If Zaya wants something, like I'm not really like thinking twice about it. I'm not obsessing over it. Which for me, that also is because I'm not a big spender normally anyway. The things that I like, the things that I want, the things that Zaya likes or wants, usually it's like a reasonable, price as far as like, I might want something from Target that's like $40. Zaya might want something from Walmart that's $10. So for that reason, I don't have to like check my bank account before I buy it. You know what I mean? Whereas if I was the type of person who was like going to Gucci, going to Prada and buying 5 pairs of designer shoes at a time and spending thousands of dollars at a time. And like, I just want to buy a yacht and buy another car. And like, if I was making big purchases like that, then no, I wouldn't be able to just swipe my card blindly. I'm able to swipe my card blindly because I'm living below my means. And I know I'm living below my means because that's just how I am anyway. I'm not that type of person to be a super big spender. Now there there are definitely exceptions. I have my moments where I do spend larger amounts of money at a time. And in those cases, I do check my account and I am careful about it and I am cognizant of it. But for the most part, for everyday expenses, I'm not having to obsess over it like I used to. And that's been huge because it just made me realize how much energy, like how draining that used to be. You know what I mean? And how draining I know that it is for other people who are in even tighter situations, even more difficult situations where they are having to obsess over their finances almost every minute of every day. You're stressed about it. You're thinking about it. You're checking into it. You're trying to make sure, you know what I mean? Like that's really draining. That takes a lot of energy out of you and makes it to where like you barely have any energy left to devote towards other things, such as, like I said, your mental health and your mindset and your habits and stuff like that I know now are so important to focus on. But unfortunately, when you're having to obsess, being forced to obsess over your finances, it's so draining. And that's why like people's mental health just gets pushed to the wayside because it's like, what choice do they have? And so that's been a huge realization for me that I'm like super thankful for now, is having that wiggle room, having that extra energy, I guess, because I'm not having to devote it to that. I can devote it to other things. And so that's something that I try to like, remember and be grateful for actively every single day. Another thing, or just in general, the financial freedom has allowed me to have a lot of extra privileges that, like I said, even though I didn't come from the bottom and I didn't grow up poor or anything like that, I still now have more privileges than I did living a middle class lifestyle, such as like traveling, you know what I mean? Like we took vacations definitely when I was a kid, like we went to Mexico even and stuff like that. But again, we weren't going to Europe and taking these luxury vacations. Whereas now, like I do have more of an opportunity to do that and see more of the world and have more of those experiences that are going to just be like enriching, life-changing experiences. You know what I mean? And that is such a privilege. Also just things like being able to afford a better, quote unquote, better overall lifestyle, as far as like, I can afford to live in a nicer, safer neighborhood. I can afford to equip my house with the best of the best security systems. I can afford to send Zaya to a really specific private school and have her go to like private swim lessons instead of just dropping her off at the community pool. Like certain things like that just kind of make me feel safer and make me feel like I'm putting myself and my daughter in like a better, safer environment, which is also a huge privilege. Even something that I realized that was huge was like being able to afford a lawyer when I needed it. That was huge. And that was a huge eye opener and something that kind of like, I had this moment where it like made it all worth it. Like all the stress that I went through to earn this money, I'm like, yeah, it was worth it for times like this, where it's like, I am so glad that I'm able to afford, a lawyer when I need it. So yeah, overall, just less stress, less energy being put towards, worrying about finances in general, and then more privileges overall. But, it's not black and white. I can be grateful and happy and feel so lucky to be in this position and be really proud of myself and be really happy that I'm here in this position. But at the same time, I can still see the negatives of it. You know what I mean? It's not black and white. Two emotions can exist about one topic simultaneously. There can be duality. You know what I mean? Yes, I am grateful. Yes, it's a good thing. Yes, I'm happy to have this, but there are still negatives. This is still going to be, pros and cons. So some of the other more negative things that I have learned since, earning more income is that while there is less stress and less energy being devoted towards like worrying about budgeting, and like I said, that draining energy that I don't feel like I have anymore worrying about my budget, it's kind of just being replaced with the stress of trying to make the money in the first place, if that makes sense. I'm not stressed about my budget, but I am stressed about earning the money, especially being a business owner, an entrepreneur. And this episode is not about 9 to 5 versus entrepreneurship and the pros and cons. I guess I can do a different episode about that. But a huge difference that I've noticed is just like when you work for somebody else, when you work at like, let's say a lower level job where you're working for somebody else and, you know, so that's not great because a lot of people don't like being in that position and you're not earning as much money. You don't have as much freedom with your schedule or whatever. But a lot of times it can be a little bit easier only in the sense that like you're being told what to do. You have a very specific job. You're given a very specific job. We need you to come in here and do X, Y, and Z. And this is how you do it. And here's the manual. And you're going to do it from 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock. And then you're going to go home and you're going to get paid. And as long as you just show up and kind of do that, the bare minimum of what we're telling you to do, you're going to get paid. And it's very, I guess, like predictable. You know what I mean? It feels like there's some sort of structure, consistency, and security to it when you're like working for somebody else. But when you're working for yourself, and especially if you own the business, it's like nobody is giving me instructions. Nobody is giving me a manual or a rule book or, okay, just do this, this, and this, and you're done. Like I'm having to come up with the instructions. I'm at the top. So everybody is looking at me for answers. It's all up to me to keep this business afloat, kind of, in a sense. And so that puts extra pressure and extra stress. It's definitely super time consuming. I know y'all probably always hear entrepreneurs talk about how, like, I saw on Twitter, somebody said, like, I got tired of working a 9 to 5. So I became an entrepreneur and now I work 24/7. And it's true. It's like, it's just that it's like a shift. And that's why whenever I see people debate about it, I'm like, I don't really know if one is necessarily better than the other. I think they're just like different. You know what I mean? It's stressful in this way, but this one is stressful in that way. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. It's like, I definitely feel like my stress has been reduced in some areas, but it's also been increased in other areas. So it almost kind of like cancels out. The other thing that I realized is that you need to be financially literate. If you are going to be earning a certain amount of money, if you're going to be touching more money than you have ever seen, you need to be financially literate. And trying to be financially literate is hard, especially because they do not teach this shit in school like they should. Like, I don't understand. That's something that has frustrated me so much, just realizing like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. Like, I don't know any of this stuff. I was not taught any of this stuff. My parents tried to teach me a lot of it, but they weren't taught. They definitely weren't taught it back in their day, so they barely know. So there's only so much that they can teach me, and they're not teaching it in school properly. So, and like, I went to good schools. Like, I went to private school at one point and stuff like that. And I'm a college graduate, but I still felt so financially illiterate. I still felt like, and to this day, I feel kind of financially illiterate. There's still so much that I don't know, especially when you are talking about bigger dollar amounts and they talking about Roth IRAs and stocks and investments and things. And like, I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And it gives me a lot of anxiety because it's like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. And if you make a mistake or you make a wrong move, things can go left real bad. I mean, we see it all the time. One day somebody is a millionaire, the next day they're bankrupt, or they being taken to jail by the IRS because they didn't, you know what I mean? It's like, it's a lot as far as just being educated and staying on top of it. And then plus, like, you try to hire people to help you with it. You try to hire professionals, you know, accountants and financial advisors and stuff like that. And then they can screw you over and mess you up and steal from you and stuff like that. And it's just like, that part of it is real stressful. That's something that I didn't even like consider or think about before, but now I'm seeing. And then again, just kind of how I said before, having access to more stuff, being able to afford more stuff isn't always a good thing, because that could easily just lead to unhealthy habits and addictions and going bankrupt and things like that. Then there's the whole aspect of the cliche that everybody talks about as far as like, if you have money, then you don't know who your real friends are and you don't know who really likes you for you, because now it feels like everybody is just using you. You don't know who's using you. You don't know who's going to try to like swindle you and scam you and manipulate you. And that's true. I'm lucky enough to not have had too much of an issue with that overall. I have never experienced anything like that with my family, for sure. I've never had a family member ask me for money or use me for money or make me feel any type of way. Like, that's never happened to me ever with any family member. So I'm super, lucky in that sense. But I know that's something that a lot of people like really struggle with. And that sucks. That sucks, to be looking at your own flesh and blood and feel like you can't trust them and feel like they really don't give two shits about you and they're just using you. Like, I can just see how that could ruin your life. Like, that's so depressing. And then same thing with friends. I've had a little bit of an issue kind of with that with friends, not too much, because honestly, I'm really picky with who I keep in my circle. Honestly, y'all probably have seen from watching me that like I kind of tend to keep the same few people around me. I don't keep a bunch of random people. I'm not always with a bunch of new friends, partially for that reason, because I try to be really careful about who I hang around and make sure that their intentions are pure, because I don't want to get used and, have those issues. So I just try to be like extra careful with that. Another thing that I have kind of experienced with friends is, I guess just the awkwardness sometimes of feeling like I'm not on the same level with my friends, feeling like I can't relate to them or they can't relate to me because we're at like quote unquote different levels in life or whatever. Again, I don't have too much of an issue with this just because, I've picked my friends wisely and I have good friends. But even with good friends, there's a certain part of it that you just can't control. Like, I just can't relate to you. They just can't relate to me. You know what I mean? There's certain topics and certain things that come up where it's just like, I don't know what to tell you because I've never experienced that. I don't know. And that can get like kind of sad and awkward sometimes and it can feel a little bit isolating. And I know this is another thing that people roll their eyes about because they're like, oh my God, you have this, this happens a lot, I feel like, with celebrities too. Like, you have this millionaire, cajillionaire, you have so much money and you're over here complaining because you feel isolated, because you feel like no one likes you. People say like, well, if I were you, I wouldn't care if anybody liked me. I wouldn't care if I had any friends. If I had that much money, I wouldn't need friends. I've literally seen people say that. If I had that much money, I wouldn't need friends. And so I wouldn't care. And so I don't understand what you're complaining about. I don't know if people like that really exist, but I'm not like that. Friendships and community and love and relationships and family are important to me, more important than money. And I feel like that's how it should be. Like, no, I'm not going to be happy. I could be a billionaire, but if I have no friends, no community around me, I don't feel like I can trust anybody. I don't have anybody to turn to. I'm going to be depressed. I would much rather have love than wealth. Like, because money does not buy happiness. You have to be a really, really, really materialistic person who literally only cares about material things for you to be happy in that situation. So yeah, having friendships and feeling like you can relate to people and feeling like you have that community is super important, and not having that really sucks. I don't know why that's sometimes like so hard to believe, but yeah. And so I definitely have had that issue to a certain extent. Even just when it comes to like, doing certain things, like let's just throw out like a random example. If I wake up tomorrow and I'm like, you know what, I really need a vacation. I want to go to Cabo next month. And I'm like, well, I don't want to go by myself, so let me go tell my friends. And I'm like, hey guys, y'all want to go to Cabo next month? They gonna look at me and be like, Raven, can't nobody, we can't do that. You know what I mean? So it's like that aspect of it too, as far as just kind of feeling isolated. Like I'm kind of on my own little island sometimes with certain subjects. Also dating is really the main thing, especially for me right now. Dating. I don't struggle with my family. I don't struggle very much with my friends, but I do struggle with dating because of my financial status, which is so freaking annoying because like that shouldn't matter. I wish that wasn't like a factor. It's not a factor for me when I look at other people. Like I don't say like, well, I'm only going to date you if you make X amount of dollars. Like that's never been how I thought of it. But now it kind of feels like I have to do that because I've just had like negative experiences with trying to, long story short, I've had negative experiences with trying to date someone who is not on the same financial level as me. It's like it's hard to align with someone. And also just the added, and this goes into like stereotypes and gender roles and things like that, but that stereotypical concept of the man wanting to be the breadwinner and the man wanting to be the head of the household, and the man feels like he wants to make more money than the woman, and he feels intimidated or he feels some type of way if the woman makes more money than him, and it causes him to like, it hurts his ego, which causes him to do certain things, which just, it turns into this big messy situation simply because like I'm at a certain level in life, I'm in a certain tax bracket. For some reason, that just be causing men to act stupid. And it is a stereotype and it is a generalization, but unfortunately, it has actually literally been my experience so far. And it's just weird. And it's gotten to the point now where like, if I meet somebody new, I'm hesitant. I'm like, I don't want to tell them what I do for a living. I don't want them to know how much money I make. I don't want them to like see my house or anything, any sort of like signifier, because it makes things weird. It changes things. You know what I mean? Unless they're just on the same page as me and they're just like, oh, me too. Cool. I relate to you. We have that in common. Okay, that would be great. But I haven't met anybody like that. So it's to the point now where I'm like, I don't even want to like go there because it always goes south after that. And yeah. I don't know. I need to do a whole nother podcast episode just about like my experience with dating in general. And I will do that. But definitely the financial aspect of it has been an issue. And then there's also sometimes where like I feel like, you know, with friends or with relationships or anybody, I'm like, I don't care if you don't have the same amount of money as me or make the same amount of money as me. Like, I don't care about your financial status. Like, I just like you for you. And so if there's something that like I want to go do or I want to take a trip or whatever, and they may not be able to afford it or whatever, like I have no problem. Like, I'll just pay for it. Like, I'll pay for both of us to go. You know, I just want to do this with you. I just want to have this experience. I don't mind paying for both of us, you know? Like, that's cool. But then like that gets awkward because people get really awkward about like somebody else paying for them, and they're like, no, like I can't accept that. Like, no, I don't want to do that. Like, no, you don't have to do that. I just won't go. Like, I just won't go. And I'm like, like, I don't know. Things like that like definitely get awkward. Another disappointing realization that I had is that just because you spend a lot of money on something doesn't mean that it's going to be good or be a good experience or be high quality. I so much looked forward to, you know, being able to afford certain things, being able to afford like the best of the best and the higher quality and the whatever, like the next level up. I looked forward to that because I'm like, it's going to be so nice to be able to afford better things and not have to worry about like it being low quality or things going wrong. Like, you know, if you're on a budget and you get something that's cheap, or you go on a cheap vacation or whatever it is, and it doesn't turn out good because it's cheap, and it's just like, you know, I can't wait till I can afford the better version of this so I don't have to worry about it, you know? So now I'm to that point where I can afford the better version of everything. And I've had so many experiences where I'm spending all this money to supposedly get the best of the best, and it still sucks. It still falls apart. It still goes wrong. It's still a disappointment. Like, what? Like, life is a scam. Basically, life is a scam. Adulthood is a scam. Everything is a scam. Using my house as an example, I have poured so much money into this house, y'all. And I find it so crazy that I'm like spending so much money. Like, I'm using the top of the line, top rated, best people, highest quality materials. Like, I'm spending the money to get the best of the best, and it still be fucked up every single time. Every single time shit still goes wrong. And I'm like, this is such a scam. This is a scam. Having money is a scam, because even when you have money, you still not getting what you need out of it. And then also too, like, just realizing that there are certain things that money can't fix. You know what I mean? Like, even with traveling, for example, something that was frustrating for me. And I know all of this stuff is first world problems. I know, I get it. First world problems, not even worth really complaining about, because other people have it way worse. And there are people dying, Kim. Yes, I know. But I'm just using this as an example. So even when it came to like traveling, I came into the year 2020, January 2020. I'm like, you know what would really make me happy? Traveling more. I just need to get out and travel and get out of my comfort zone. That's going to be my goal for the year 2020. Well, then what happened? COVID hit, and can't nobody travel because of COVID. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter how much money I have, how much money I set aside. I worked to reach this financial goal to be able to travel, because that was a big thing that I wanted to do. And I did meet the financial goal, and I did have the money, and I was ready. I was ready to buy my tickets. But it didn't matter because COVID. So it's like, there's always going to be, it's basically realizing there's always going to be blockages. There's always still going to be things that block you, stop you, are an obstacle, that go wrong, that don't turn out how you expected, that are disappointing, that are sad. Like, life is still going to suck in its own way. It's a hard pill to swallow, but it's like, I don't care if you are Jeff Bezos, if you are Kylie Jenner, I don't care if you are a billionaire. Life is still going to suck at times. There's nothing you can do about that. Literally no dollar amount is going to protect you from the cruelties of existing as a human being. And I'm laughing because, like, I'm saying it in such a dramatic way, but it's like I'm being dead serious at the same time. This is why you can't put all your weight on just thinking like, when I reach this certain financial status, then I'll be happy. No, you won't. No, you won't. You're still going to have bad days. I promise you. I promise you. You could take a private jet to your beach house and get on your yacht and still have a horrible day because a freaking tsunami could come, and like, there's still going to be outside factors. You know what I mean? It's just realizing that. And I know that seems very obvious, but you can get really wrapped up in like the fantasy of it all. You know what I mean? Like, when I finally have this, then I'll be happy. And you just kind of fantasize about it, and you forget to think about like, no, like, things can still go wrong. The other thing is the pressure. I talked about like the stress, like how I said, like, I don't stress about budgeting, but I stress about making the money in the first place, but also just like the pressure to keep it up. You know what I mean? Like, it's all on me. Like, okay, you made it to this level. You built up this lifestyle. You bought this house. You bought this car. You got your daughter used to a certain lifestyle and a certain way of living. So now you got to keep it up. How are you going to keep it up? Because again, like, it's easier said than done, and anything could happen. And we've seen time and time again, people go from having everything to having nothing in the blink of an eye. And so having that constant thought in the back of my head and feeling that constant pressure to keep it up can induce a lot of anxiety and yucky feelings and just stress. And that's something that I've had to kind of battle with lately, because it's like, what are you going to do? And also it's just it's like the more success you reach, the harder it is to keep it up too. So that's part of it too. And then the last thing that I kind of realized or learned, or that I now struggle with, is guilt. I have a problem with feeling a lot of extreme guilt, feeling like I don't deserve the things that I have, feeling really bad about the fact that other people have so much less, feeling like, like just guilt. Like there's no other way to put it rather besides just feeling extreme guilt all the time. It's like a little voice in the back of my head all day, every day that's telling me you don't deserve this. This is not fair. There are people all over the world who can't even afford to eat tonight. Like that little voice in the back of my head that just is kind of like a dark cloud over me at all times. I still haven't figured out a way to like deal with that or make that voice shut up. And part of me is because I feel like the voice is kind of telling the truth. While I know it's like irrational to a certain extent, it is kind of rational kind of too, because it is unfair. It is fucked up that I'm able to have this while the next person has nothing. That is fucked up. You know what I mean? There's truth to it. And so that's something that I struggle with. I also struggle with feeling guilty about like spoiling my daughter. Like, am I spoiling her rotten? Am I giving her like a skewed perception of the world? Is she going to grow up to be, a certain kind of way because of the things that I just feel, those feelings of like anxiety and guilt, and just the way that I know that living a more luxury lifestyle can corrupt you and just be, I don't know how to explain it, but hopefully that makes sense. So yeah, all in all, moral of the story, money is not everything. I've learned a lot. My eyes have been opened up a lot over the last couple of years. And unless you are truly that materialistic, you're going to have to keep a balance. Yes, have those financial goals. Get in your bag, sis. Focus on that. Understand that it's necessary. You have to focus on that. You have to provide for yourself. You have to think about those things. But can you also remember to think about the other side of it too? Can you also remember that money, it really is only half of the equation? And I can say that from experience. You have to just balance it. Stay grounded while you're working on your financial goals. Try as much as you can to still focus on yourself, your internal goals as far as your mental health and your physical health and things like that. Because you don't want to end up rich and sad. You don't want to end up finally in a comfortable position as far as your finances, but still being in a very uncomfortable position within yourself because of your outlook on life, because of your mental health, because of your mindset. And that's what I'm still currently trying to work on. I haven't figured it out. I'm still struggling with it, and it's still a process and a journey for me. But I'm working on it. And the first step is realizing it and admitting it. So that's everything that I have for this episode. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye.